Good morning and welcome. There was a time when I would welcome you all to Boston for FXD, but not this year. This year we're virtual. So welcome to the first ever virtual FXD. I'm Michael Kirkpatrick. I head up the financial services practice for MadPow, and I work closely with our clients and our design teams to drive change. For those who don't know, we at MadPow are an 80-person agency founded about 20 years ago with offices in Boston and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We incorporate the psychology of motivation into our design approach to affect behavior change. Today, we find ourselves working on transformational initiatives that redefine customer experiences and deepen the customer relationship. I'm really glad you've all decided to be here today. I hope we deliver a great and interesting program for you all. We put great care into building FXD, and our motivation is to provide community through thoughtfully curated content that also inspires you to drive change within your organizations. I also hope today you meet interesting colleagues through our networking segments. That's another key design principle for FXD. Before we get started, I wanted to take stock of where we are. It's an incredibly challenging time for the country and the world. We're amidst a pandemic that appears to be second surging. We've arrived at a polarized and rancorous political moment. The divide between the winners and losers seems ever deepening. Our collective belief in meritocracy, where winners deserve their winnings and losers have no one to blame but themselves for their losses, continues to drive a lack of empathy and kindness that runs through the financial services industry as a whole. And your job as leaders hasn't gotten any easier. As leaders, you must attract a diverse collective of talent, competing with attractive startups and internet brand names to build your teams. You must also spend considerable time these days protecting this talent, ensuring continued safety through the pandemic, while also promoting human connection in a mostly remote reality. And talent is seen as key to business growth. When asked in a recent study, CEOs identified talent risk as the #1 risk to future business growth. Leading with purpose is also critical and more relevant than ever. Customers expect financial services companies to address critical societal issues. A lack of action is seen as a lack of purpose, or worse, it's seen as turning a blind eye to systemic racism or an endorsement of things like inequality. And of course, COVID is accelerating everything. In a recent leadership survey, 75% reported that the COVID-19 crisis accelerated digital transformation by months, if not years, in their organizations. The pandemic has been the single greatest driver to digital adoption and behavior change in human history. A retail banking client told me recently how amazing it was that they were able to release a new product to the world in just 7 days, something they never would have thought possible prior to COVID. And this acceleration has not only increased the stakes of winning the experience excellence game, it's also further raised customer expectations. Customers who now ask, why not, after seeing even the least disruptive financial company adapt. In a recent MadPow study about the impact of COVID-19 on expectations in financial services, our participants talked about things like courier ATMs, remote mortgage closings, and a number of other innovations they now expect to have. We also heard them reflect on deeper exploration of existing digital experiences. They're literally using features like mobile deposit for the first time, believe it or not. So now is the time to double down on your customer experience investments. We at MadPow believe in the impact of great customer experience design. When it comes to great design, the Latin phrase used in law comes to my mind. Res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. Great design speaks for itself. It's undebatable and doesn't require convincing. Do you remember the first time getting out of an Uber and the freeing feeling of not having to fumble for cash or to swipe your card and wait for it to connect? Or the first use of the one-click buy button on Amazon? These experiences were undebatably better, mostly because they removed a friction we didn't even notice was there or thought we couldn't challenge. This is the new frontier for great experience design in financial services, and it will require a challenge to the status quo and a challenge to the constraints that have hamstrung the industry. Financial companies that challenge conventions and constraints during the pandemic, mostly out of necessity, will need to retain that mindset as they look for experience innovations of the future. This year at FXD, you may see we've emphasized team culture, connection, or topics like motivation or teamwork, more so than in years past. This is a reaction to where we are in the world. So today, across a host of great speakers, we're going to explore matters of culture and team, purpose and perspective, motivation and behavior change design, and the work of driving design, something I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's going to be a great program. A few program notes though before we get started. First, we've connected with a handful of colleges and universities in an attempt to connect you all with young talent and internship. I hope you can visit their booths at the break and commit to bringing young talent into your organizations through this internship. Secondly, at lunch, we have 2 lunch and learn options. Sylvia Before shares her Dare to Care approach to building healthy culture in a virtual world, very relevant. And our friends at Tech Mahindra have a discussion focused on driving synergies between design and technology functions. Each speaker today will provide Q&A after their talk. Please filter in questions through our chat feature in the platform interface. So today, as we explore these themes together, we encourage you to tune in, even with the temptations of your email, Slack messages, a sunny day, or the distractions of your dog, your children, the Amazon Prime delivery. Do your best, but we understand. I want to thank you all so much for joining us remotely, and a special thank you to our awesome speakers for giving their time and energy today. MADPO appreciates all of you being here, and I personally will miss the opportunity to clink a glass at the end of this event to thank you all.